This is Audible.
Welcome to the audio liner notes for Weezer's OK Human. That's our new album. We were due to put out an album called Van Weezer, which is our ultra hard rock, heavy metal riffage album. That would be out to go along with a summer tour in 2020. We're going to go stadiums around the world with Green Day, Fall Out Boy, and just completely rock everyone's socks off. But then, of course, the whole thing got bumped because of the pandemic, and we realized we didn't want to put out this ultra rock album because we couldn't even get together in the same room, let alone go out and promote a rock album. So we turned our sights instead to a very introspective, quirky, bizarre, piano-based, strings-enhanced, orchestra-enhanced album called OK Human. We had a great time doing it, and we got out a lot of beautiful melodies and interesting chord progressions and really weird lyrics, and it all seems to resonate for us really well right now after a year of being locked in our respective houses. The way we recorded this album was totally weird, at least for me. I've never done anything like this. We recorded just me and Pat. Pat's the drummer, in our producer's living room, playing very quietly. And then Jake took that to Abbey Road in London, just the drums really, and had the strings play over the drums. And there's no click track or anything. There's no grid. It's all just very loose and wobbly and feels very human. In fact, at one point in the middle of the song, Pat got a call from his wife and stopped playing and started talking to his wife for 10 seconds before resuming the song, and that is on the album. As the songwriter, it was a little bit nerve-wracking to see the songs be approached in such a loose way, but I love the energy and spontaneity of the album. You can tell we're in the process of discovering as we're recording. For the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to listen to bits of the album, OK Human, dig deep into the lyrics and themes and the sounds of the record. And we're very excited to be joined by Jaron Lanier, the founder of virtual reality, and we'll get his take on these massive topics. We'll introduce him in just a moment, but first, let's go through the guys in the band. I'm going to pass it off to you, Pat.
Hi, this is Patrick Wilson. I play drums in Weezer, and we're here to talk about our latest album, and it's pretty great.
Hi, this is Scott, bass player in Weezer, sometimes other instrument player. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, this is Brian Bell. I play guitar in Weezer, and on OK Human, I also play the organ and sing background vocals, along with my bandmates Scott and Pat.
Okay, and everybody say hi to Jaron. And Jaron, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Hey there, Weezers. I'm Jaron. My life doesn't make sense to me. I can't quite keep it all in mind at once, but I do computer science. I started the virtual reality field, sort of, and I have been critical of the way the internet turned out and have written all these scathing books about it for a long time. But lately, everybody else is saying the same thing. So I'm feeling a little less needed in that department, maybe, but I'm still happy to talk about that stuff. And also, I'm a musician, and I play a zillion instruments, and I've never made it. Well, I actually did make it a primary career briefly in the 90s, but I played with all kinds of well-known people, from George Clinton to Philip Glass, lately with John Batiste, T-Bone Burnett and stuff. So I actually have a toe in the music world, and I'm surrounded by weird instruments as we speak.
Great. Well, Weezer, I think, is one of the latecomers to the scathing attacks on the internet and technology. With that, why don't we play just a little bit of one song from our new album called Screens, which touches on my anxiety about how I'm feeling like we're just, I end up using technology to fill this sense of a loss of purpose and the void in myself, and then how addictive that gets. It first really came to the forefront of my mind one day when I had been looking at my screen in front of me, my computer, maybe 4 or 5 hours straight. And I looked up and went to the kitchen and saw my wife sitting there looking at her screen. Looked into the living room. There was my son looking at his screen. And I knew my daughter was up in her room looking at her screen. Next door, my parents, I'm sure, were each in their rooms looking at their screens. And knowing the same scene was being repeated probably all down our street, around the country, and probably around a lot of the world. And it just suddenly felt really eerie. I knew I had to write a song about it. Here's Screens. Young girl, lying flat in her bed, streaming images to her head. Homeworker memes, slime a black pink. 8 hours gone, now her mind's blown. She don't want me here. Now the real world is dying as everybody moves into the clouds. Can you tell me where we're going? Where will we be 21 years from now? Everyone stares at the screen. Everyone stares at the screen. Oh, babe.
I have a 14-year-old daughter, and one of the things that breaks my heart is that teenagers during this era are kind of not getting to have their full lives. First, they had to deal with a boatload of Trumpism and illusions, and then there's this pandemic that has just kept them separated. And I realize you're not writing about a specific character, but sort of everybody. But I particularly it just pains me to see what's happening. And of course, I wonder how they'll look back on it.
I have a 13-year-old, so I'm pretty much thrown in the towel as far as trying to manage their screen time. Like, well, how do you do it?
I've taken the attitude that she's old enough to make her own decisions and learn her own lessons,
Yeah.
I just feel like she's old enough that I have to respect her ability to be a little stupid once in a while. I'm still stupid sometimes. She knows that,
Yeah.
So we can't demand perfection of each other. And that's like the little tricky bit about trying to improve the world. I wrote a book asking people to think about deleting all their social media accounts. And of course, I know most people won't do that or can't do it, but you have to think about it. The idea isn't to go for some kind of purity. That's stupid. That's not human. But at least to be more aware of each other's impurities and try to inch a little bit away from insanity. Like even a little bit helps. So that's, that's kind of what I go for. I hope that she does that. I hope she inches away from insanity. But hey, she's a teenage girl. Like, what am I expecting? I don't know.
And it's hard for me to say anything without feeling like a hypocrite because I'm sitting here looking at my screen all day long. It's just how I do my work now. Even as a musician, I never thought I'd grow up to be a musician and sit at a computer all day.
Yeah, but you don't have to play these games. You can play different games. Like go outside. We've benefited a lot, myself personally, from just asking myself, well, what am I getting? One day I woke up and I was like, I fired up Twitter right away. I got an espresso. I could feel myself getting tense. And my feed is pretty much populated with mostly positive things, like people who are optimistic in general. Like I don't want to read a bunch of rage, but I could just feel myself like, why am I tense right now? And I'm in the process of asking myself, what is the upside of me having my attention consumed by all of this? Like, it's not productive. I don't feel like I'm learning a whole lot. And as far as my kids go, we just tell them, you're not going to spend a lot of time online. We're going to go outside. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to do stuff. And so far, so good. Who knows? Maybe they'll go to college and they'll just binge hard on stuff. But we drew a hard line about how much screen time we're going to allow them to have.
Yeah, it's great to hear you say you're curating it to be mostly positive. And that brings to mind a song on our album called Here Comes the Rain, which has the one lyric in it which is like the realization that the universe will give you more of what you pay attention to.
Amen.
So make sure you're paying attention to the right stuff. So this is Here Comes the Rain.
We're on the way to paradise. Did you hear the news? The universe will give you more of what you pay attention to. Oh, it's gonna wash all my troubles away. Here comes the rain.
Back to social media is one of the negatives to it is I feel like people always are putting their best life forward, their best face forward, and there's a lot of comparing your life to somebody else's and your fun to their fun and all their trips. And you can definitely go down a rabbit hole comparing your life to somebody's non-reality life. It's just the one that they're putting forward.
Their fantasy version of how great their life is.
Yeah. There's no real benefit to doing that.
Well, you measure yourself against others that way, and that's dangerous.
I'm sure it's very dangerous for teenagers. I can't even imagine it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was a teenager in a time when the media was MTV, and that was confusing enough. I can't imagine being bombarded with a bunch of half-cocked insanity from people with no filter.
Well, the tricky thing about it is, let's say if bad information is worse than no information, and a lot of the feedback that you get about yourself is not a bad thing, but false feedback is a very bad thing. And so the question is, do you try to fix it with prohibitions and say, well, let's cancel the worst people online, let's deplatform them, let's limit screen time or something like that? Or do you try to encourage personal responsibility, or do you find a balance between them? What I've sort of come to believe is that there's a third way that's even better, which is to try to, in a way, bring a little more capitalism into the internet. And I'm in Berkeley, that's kind of anti-capitalistic. But right now, what people are competing for online is attention.
Yep.
And attention is like the most poisonous thing to compete for. So I feel like we need to give them something else to compete for. And as bad as money can be, it's better than a race for attention. So that's kind of where I've been landing, because I think unless you incentivize something better, nothing will get better. Incentives run the world.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of where I've been going.
Well, why not put a little humanity into these relations? Like, all the bullshit I see online is just vitriolic. I'm like, well, if you would not say that to someone's face, and if you did, then you guys should sit down and figure out what the problem is.
Yeah, the problem is you can't write computer code that knows what humanity is. It's just impossible. And so, of course, I agree with that. It's just that I don't know how to do it. I really, that's the problem. Computers can only do a few things. They can't do everything, and we have to kind of admit their limits. And that's the thing. Technology people hate admitting the limits of technology, but we got to recognize it. Humanity is kind of a mystical idea when you get right down to it, and you can't really capture it in a bottle.
I agree all the way, man. It's a very thin layer of abstraction that technology gives us, and it's not even 0.1% of the human experience.
And in a way, that's very good for us, because otherwise we'd be obsolete as humans, wouldn't we?
Obsolescence is in the eye of the economy. I mean, we have a choice about whether to make people obsolete or not. We made a decision a while ago to make music free to promote YouTube's fortune. I think it was the wrong decision, but society has a choice about whether to make people economically obsolete or not, or socially obsolete. And we've been making the wrong choices about that. It's one of the things that's really enraging about the way tech's happened.
Yeah, what you guys were saying about you can't capture humanity in a bottle, that's reminding me of the song Numbers. One day I was feeling okay about myself, and then I think I looked online and I saw Weezer, maybe we're on some chart or there's some statistic, some number somewhere was telling me that we weren't doing as well as I thought we were. And then one thing led to another in my mind. I started feeling pretty bad about myself. And I recognized, like, man, why do I keep looking at these numbers? They just always make me depressed. And even if there's a good one, I'll keep looking until I find a bad one. So I don't want to judge myself by these metrics. There's got to be something more to life. So I sat down at the piano and wrote this song, Numbers.
There's always a number that'll make you feel bad about yourself. You try to measure up to somebody else. Numbers are out to get you. Numbers are out to get you. Numbers. Ooh. They say that you're too short to join the team, and your IQ's too low for poetry. Numbers are out to get you. Numbers are out to get you. Numbers. Ooh. I hear the sadness in your
Yeah, that's really great.
Thanks.
It is great, and it's exactly what we were talking about. And that song is a great response to the problem in itself. Like it's a heavy tune, man, and I feel it.
Yeah, those numbers that are unhealthy to compare about other people, the ones about other people are wrong. Just to get clear, this is all a big illusion.
Yes.
In the sciences, getting a number to actually say anything useful is very hard. Almost all numbers you come across turn out to be wrong or fake or whatever. And so this idea that we have all these measures of people that are valid is ridiculous.
Yeah. What we infer from this data is it's not robust. It's like what we should be eternally skeptical about data.
Yeah, that's the only way. That's the only way.
Having said that, I want to make sure we're on as many Spotify playlists as possible.
Yeah, sure. You know what? I think there's a kind of indirect data, like just being able to sell records, that's different from a judgment about your person. I mean, the problem is that if you're measuring how many records you sold or Spotify playlists in the current version, it still is a little bit nonsense, but it's a little less nonsense because it's a measure of something specific. Like that is a real thing. Measures of things like followers or popularity or what a crowd rates you at when they have no stake at all, a lot of that stuff is just really nonsense. It's a measure of totally different social processes. If there's going to be data, at least to let it be about something real, whatever that is. And everybody knows that there's music that wasn't popular at first that we now look back on and think was just amazing and really important. So everybody understands, as soon as you're dealing with real data about something real, you also understand the limitations of it.
That number song really was emotionally provocative for me. And even recording it was having a bunch of feelings. And there's a few songs on this album that really move me. I'm excited to see it kind of get out in the world and do its thing.
Another interesting and nerve-wracking thing for me about working with our producer Jake on this album was he's coming in with these fresh ears that have no expectations about what a song is supposed to be. So in some cases, I would send him an idea like a chorus, and he'd say, "Great, this is great. I see right where it will go." And I said, "Okay, cool. So now I'll go write the rest of the song, right? Like some verses and a bridge and a solo." He's like, no, it's great. I'm like, wait a minute. It's like 30 seconds long. It's just one chorus. You can't put a song like that on an album. He's like, no, this is great. Let's do it. And I just had to shrug and say, okay, I gotta trust this guy. Let's give it a shot. So check it out. This is Mirror Image.
She is my mirror image, showing me who I am, until the day that we shatter. She helps me understand. She is my mirror image, showing
we're all criticizing the current and future state of humanity vis-a-vis technology. Do you have any sense of like some kind of glory days in the past, or is that an illusion? And I just want to play a bit of a song here called "Bird with a Broken Wing," which touches on my feeling kind of like outdated and discarded, like a bird with a broken wing, and just kind of sitting there wounded, dying on the beach, and thinking back to his youth when he was powerful and strong and felt alive. So this is "Bird with a Broken Wing."
Long ago, I was flying in the air, looking at the sea below. I was hunting krill, diving down. In a flash, I'd scoop 'em up, crashing in my mandible. It was such a thrill. Me and my friends, we were killers. Now I'm just a bird with a broken wing, but still have a song to sing. Turning night to day.
You know, the best lyric in that is, "You'll never catch my melody." And to me, that's like the lasting value is, you know, what was created from that person that can't be taken away and that lives on. And I really love that sentiment.
Right.
This song was definitely one of my favorites, and there was a sequence where it wasn't on the record, and I went ballistic. I called everyone possible, and I felt like, I don't know why I had to, but I felt like I had to stick up for the song, and I was like, I believe in this song. It has to be on the record. I'm very glad that it is on the record. It'd be a shame if it wasn't.
Yeah, here.
You know, one of the things about this record that's amazing to me is it's not complainy. There's no complaints really on this record. They're just expressions of concern. And it's really hard to write music that's uplifting. It's so easy to write complaint rock, but to write music that like actually has an uplifting feeling to it, I feel like it's one of the absolute hardest things to do. And I feel a lot of it on this record. It's really, really, I'm really happy to have been a part of it.
I have a thought about that, which is, I think this same album, let's say 5 years ago, would have been really out of step with the times, because I think in a way what people were most concerned with is, are we even real? Are we so lost in comfort? Are we so lost in kind of, I don't know, affluent suburban life or something like that, that we're not even real? And so they were always looking for some kind of intensity and whatever it was, you know, fake wrestling or sort of like gangster rappers or something like that. It's like we want like real intensity in our lives. And I feel like now we've had the intensity, you know, like that's not the problem anymore. Now there's like this quest for sanity. There's this quest for keeping the thread that lets us survive and lets us be real with one another. And so I feel like this album is like right in sync with this moment.
That's a cool observation.
What struck me about it is it has this kind of plain spokenness. You know, it's not lost in some ethereal space. It's not plunging into some kind of extreme version of, oh, I don't know, lust or sorrow or something like that. It's kind of like very on the level. It's a very straightforward confrontation with what life is like right now. And that's surprisingly unusual. And I think it would have been unthinkable until recently. I think it is what people need. At least I hope that's what people take from it.
Yeah, me too, man.
Let me play another song that touches on this theme. This is describing my quotidian existence, just the dull details of my daily life as I'm really bemoaning this loss of purpose and the sense of alienation. So this is me on date night describing my life in a song called Alu Gobi.
What's playing at the Arrow? Some French noir flick. Don't wanna sit next to humans, I'm agoraphobic. Order up a decaf latte, spin Gainsbourg tunes. Gosh darn this cast iron lounger, my butt will bruise. I'd rather be
When you think about a lyric like that one, do you think of it as being associated with our particular time or the universal eternal human condition or both? I'm curious about that.
Um, I'm literally just writing down what's bugging me in the moment on any given day. I just was feeling really burnt by the sense of routine. Like, oh my God, every Friday night, my wife and I do the exact same date night. This is getting really dull. And I don't think it ever once occurred to me of any kind of universal human condition.
I was going to ask Rivers, this was written before the pandemic, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's a lot of people are saying this record feels very relatable in a pandemic, but most of these lyrics were written before the pandemic. So I'm starting to think like during this quarantine lockdown, most people are experiencing the sort of life that that I have normally.
Yeah, we were pandemic before it was cool.
So you're ahead of the curve.
Let me play another song real quick. This is from the first single called All My Favorite Songs. It's about my difficulty of connecting to other people. It's all my favorite songs.
I love parties, but I don't go. Then I feel bad when I stay home. Cause I need a friend when I take a walk. I like spacing out when somebody talks. I wanna be rich, but I feel guilty. I fall in love with everyone who hates me. All my favorite songs are slow and sad.
Well, that's exactly how I've always felt. I've always had exactly that kind of problem with parties. Can I make a confession to you guys?
Absolutely.
Please.
During the pandemic, I started to feel so stuck in the monotony of it that I managed to go out on a motorcycle and throw myself off it. And I was like in the hospital for a long time and I'm still not quite all the way back, which is so uncharacteristic of me. But there's this way that this period just made me stir crazy and just generally crazy that I wasn't prepared for. And I feel like I've gotten it together at this point, but yeah, boredom is dangerous, man. It really, it's like, I sometimes look at the sort of crazy people, the insurgent movement and all that, and I wonder if that's part of their problem too, if that's like their version of a motorcycle accident.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, going out to the Arrow, which is a kind of an art house theater on Montana Avenue in Santa Monica, it sounds like an amazing night now.
Yeah, I know. That's the irony.
And if anyone doesn't know what aloo gobi is, it's an Indian dish, which is basically cauliflower and potatoes, which is pretty bland the way we make it in the West. But they add, in India, they add a bunch of spices to it. I'm not sure that everyone that sees the word aloo gobi even knows what that is. It's an Indian dish. I'm sure you just had it so many times you were just like bored with it, right?
Yeah, that's the irony is I was so bored with the same old routine, same old dish every Friday. And then now it's all gone and I do miss it.
Yeah.
We're on the cusp though, guys. I can feel it. I feel like we're getting back.
So there's another thing I wanted to ask Jaron about. I don't think I've heard you talk about this before. And it's my anxiety about my standing in society. This era when it's so easy to make the wrong tweet or say the wrong thing in an interview and your whole career can go down the tubes. So I'm touching on this in the song called La Brea Tar Pits, which is really about me feeling like outdated and humanity has evolved beyond me and I'm stuck in for those of you who aren't from LA, La Brea Tar Pits are literal tar pits in the center of LA that have like fossilized mammoths and saber-tooths in there that happen to get stuck. So I'm fantasizing about myself stuck there. And the tribe is kind of moving on. So this is La Brea Tar Pits.
So let me try to persuade you all to lend me a hand. Good with the spear and settling fights. Do anything for the good of the tribe. Hey, hey.
One of the things I've noticed is that a lot of the most violent, murderous people in the world these days express this feeling that they're about to be obsolete and replaced. The white supremacist movement in the US is always talking about this thing they call replacement theory. But the funny thing is, if you look at the literature of ISIS, it has the same thing. It's like we're not going to be, we're afraid we're going to be replaced. And I think that to a degree, you can say that's always been a fear because cultures have always been changing and people have always been worried about their whole world going away. I don't think that's new, but there is a new part, which is that the technology world has this way of talking about itself like we're about to build robots that are smarter than people and everybody's going to have to go out of work and be supported on a universal basic income and you're all going to be obsolete. And if you look at the news on a typical day, there'll be like 13 items that are horrible about the virus or something, and a bomb went off here, and this and that happened. And then at the end, the feel good story is, hey, Google has a robot that can do this thing that that better than people. So all those radiologists or legal researchers or whatever it is, they're not going to be as good as the computer. And of course, that's wrong. What these computers do is they take input from the real people who do the jobs, and they need continued input. Like the people aren't actually obsolete. There's just kind of this theatrical ritual where we pretend they're obsolete because we're channeling their creativity through a program. So it's not right. But the thing is that messaging, I think, creates this general ambience of our era that real humans are about to go away. It's a weird thing for me because I had to kind of make a decision whether to be primarily a musician or a scientist early on. And I was allergic to cigarette smoke, so it kind of made the decision for me. I couldn't really play in clubs in New York and stuff. But what's weird is that at the time I was doing it, I thought of the musician as being the higher status thing. And I ended up in the middle of Silicon Valley, which is now the highest status thing. And I'm just realizing, well, first, status is bullshit in the first place. Status is some kind of really deep old human business of hierarchies that we don't need anymore. So that's the first thing to say. But the other thing is that this whole thing about making other people unimportant or obsolete is purely a mind game that we do to get rich. Let's be really blunt about it. Like, we fooled you. If you feel that way to a degree, it's us fooling you. And I think you need to get unfooled and push back on us. I think it's not the whole story of what's going on, but it's part of it.
The other thing that's going on is, why is there such a massive overreaction to everything? Is that the media's business model? Like, just pump up the drama and get the engagement? And
Yes, that's what it is.
What's the most amount of engagement? Well, fear. Nothing motivates humans more than fear does. So we better throw a lot of that on there. And the overreaction to me is just so nuts. Like, I find myself being like, well, why am I wound up about this? This is stupid. I wish people would just maybe check in with themselves a little bit and just pay attention to their feelings about stuff.
Yeah, there's what's sometimes called the lizard brain or something. There are these very old circuits, the fight or flight circuits, where if something scares you or makes you aggressive, it gets more attention. It puts you into a state where it's harder to get out of that state. And so just naturally enough, if you have media based on attention getting, it tends to like stuff that generates paranoia, xenophobia, narrow-mindedness, irritability. That is totally the business model, and that's the thing that's the double tragedy. Like when YouTube got started and didn't pay musicians in order for it to rise, it used this business model based on attention getting. And the tragedy is that in order to not pay musicians, they had to make everybody psychologically ill. So the side effect of screwing musicians was to kind of darken the whole culture. So, they should have been, if they were nice to musicians at the start, I think our politics would be better. I think our interpersonal relationships would be better. Like, be nice to musicians. It makes the culture better.
Yes, and drink more beer or something. Like, can we all just go out and just like go to the park and have a beer? Let's just talk about it. Like, this is not the natural state of affairs. There's like a thumb on the scale right now. Like, people's amygdalas actually get swollen when they're in flight or fight responses too much, and it's a real problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that old amygdala. What are we going to do with it?
I thought it was fascinating what you said, that the humans aren't actually being sidelined by technology, and that you at one point felt like you had to make a choice between the two. And I got to tell you, and I think a lot of our fans have been reading this about me, that I'm getting more and more known for my own amateurish dabbling in programming, and I've written many scripts to help me in my creative pursuits, literally songwriting, and helping me sort and go through big databases of my lyric ideas, my title ideas, and my music ideas, even analyzing for sentiment, that sort of thing. And I can definitely attest to the fact that I'm not doing less work now. I'm still quite busy and I still feel very creative, but I do feel like I have my computer working alongside me and it's quite fun. In fact, I ended up having so much fun, it started to feel more fun than the actually working on the songs part.
That's the best reason in the world to do computer stuff. That's great.
Yeah, I think Pat, sometimes you've said the same thing. Like you spend way more time setting up your studio than actually working on the music that you set up the studio for.
Oh yeah, like if I just put like 1/10 of the energy into making music than I do like preparing to make music, like it's literally like for those about to rock.
Yeah. So I was noticing this about myself, like, wow, I am really enjoying this programming. So as I was writing OK Human, the whole idea was just write about whatever you're feeling in the moment. And I was feeling excitement for programming. So I wrote the song and it was just really weird and unrelatable. So I used my artistic license and I used a metaphor and I wrote a song called Playing My Piano. But really, the whole thing is about my excitement for programming. Let's take a listen to Playing My Piano.
My wife is upstairs, my kids are upstairs, and I haven't washed my hair in 3 weeks. I should get back to these Zoom interviews, but I get so absorbed and time flies. I just can't let go when I'm playing my piano. Ooh, I'm playing my piano.
I love pianos. Oh my God. Well, for me, it's a special thing because my mom taught me to play initially, and then she died when I was little, so it's a connection to her. But
Oh,
there's also
wow.
something about the piano because there's this way that you're sitting there and it's bigger than you. It's like you're the baby and it's the mama thing. It's not like most instruments you're kind of holding them or something, but this is like this thing that you're sort of suckling on or something. I don't know. It's like
Mm.
there's something about it that puts me into this state that's very kind of primal, and you don't have to worry about dropping it or dropping your sticks or anything like it's just going to be there, so you can in a way relax more than with other instruments. It'll just sit there.
Yeah, I do love the piano too.
And middle C is always middle. It's one place on the piano as opposed to on the guitar where it's like in 9 or 10 different places the same note, because there's basically the guitar is 6 pianos, set like a fourth apart.
People tried to make pianos that had a kind of grid keyboard so that you wouldn't have to use different fingerings to transpose, where there would just be a fixed grid of where the notes are. Like there are an accordion, for instance, has that on the button side. And somehow people were unsatisfied with it. And I think what you just said is the reason why. I think part of the whole idea of the piano is that the note is right there. There's a kind of a certainty about it or concreteness. The other thing about the piano that just blows my mind is that I don't know the science of why people sound different on it. Like you can take two pianos, they can just play a note and you can tell that they have different
Yeah.
touches. But then if you
Yeah.
look at the mechanism, there's no reason why that could be so. And so there's like a mystery in the piano that's never been solved that I really adore.
Uh, when I was 18, I planned out my life. I was going to be a rock star till I was 30, and then a classical composer till I was 40, and then a novelist till I was 50. I just turned 50. I'm still stuck in the very first phase, still a rock star. but still love great literature, and sometimes I dabble a bit. You can hear some of it in the song Dead Roses on OK Human. I'm just writing a little bit more in a stylized literary way, almost gothic way, a line about finding these dead roses at the bottom of an oubliette, this little torture chamber. Not a line that you normally hear in a rock song. And then there's this winged beast with horns, raven locks of hair. It's probably not audible quality, but it's a decent attempt. So here it is, Dead Roses.
I imagine your smile, the life that we could share. With the last of my steps, I see the truth lying there. Dead roses at the bottom of an oubliette, where they beat you till you beg to live. You were mine and you were always mine. Now I'm crying over dead roses. I could never let them go.
Well, that's the end of our special audio liner notes. Thank you for listening. And thank you so much to Jaron Lanier for joining us and adding his powerful insight into these topics and themes that are becoming more and more relevant every day. Thank you. And because this is Audible, we're going to play one more song from OK Human, which is all about my love for Audible and listening to it every night. When I wake up in the middle of the night, I can't get back to sleep. I put on my headphones. I drift off into this weird half-asleep state of beta waves, enter the imagination of these great authors, enter their world. It's such a magical time. So yeah, I had to write this song about it. Check it out. This is Grapes of Wrath.
I'm gonna rock my audible headphone. Grapes of wrath, drift off to oblivion. I just don't care, I just don't care. Rock my audible headphone. Grapes of wrath, drift off to oblivion. You think I care, I just don't care. I just don't care. I'm barely there. I just don't care. Count on me to show support for Winston Smith in 1984. 'Cause battling Big Brother feels more meaningful than...
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.